My brother Andy, as Jerry said, he had a kind of dyslexia, not like Jerry's kind, but the kind that you look and every word comes off the page and floats, and you have to put it down with your eyes. Only nobody knew what that was at the time, so you just can't really learn to read. Of course, later on in life, he went on and became very successful and remains that way today. But it was so he was left back in the second grade, then was left back in the sixth grade, and he's 2 years older than me, so we wound up in the same class. And in those days, the nuns would put you by the order of your grades. So I was like in the second row or something, and my brother was always in the last row with these tall kids, you know, who had all been left back, you know. And it was painful. It was very painful. And the nuns did the best they could, and some of them were more wonderful than others. And this one sister we had that year, Sister Vidya, big, large nun with these bottleneck glasses, and I really liked her a lot, you know. But it was hard for her to contain all these kids, but she was tough. You know, and she used the ruler and everything else. Anyway, years went on. So my brother, unlike me, I'm really outgoing. I could talk to a pole, you know. My brother's quieter and would never just openly kind of go out and go talk to people, you know, in an unusual way like I would. Well, we were back visiting. He lives out in the Hamptons on Long Island, and it's about an hour from where we grew up, which was Lake Ronkonkoma, Long Island. And we were out there just a couple of years ago. My brother said to me, he says, "Di," he says, "why don't we take a ride back to Ronkonkoma?" I go, "Okay, yeah, I like that kind of thing." And we go back, we see our old house, and he goes, "Why don't we go by our school, St. Joseph's?" And I go, "Okay, but gee, I didn't think that was a real great experience for you, you know." I thought after the 7th grade, then he went to public school. And I said, "I'm surprised you'd want to go there." And now, mind you, this is 45 years later. And he said, "Yeah, I'd just like to go." And so we go down. It's like 2 blocks away. And so my brother said, "Why don't we kind of like go in the play yard, go in the middle, you know, of the compound?" And I said, "Okay." I'm thinking this is a little strange, but it didn't get too much thought. And then in the middle of the playground, there's this little tall 2-story building with a garden around it. It was a convent where the nuns lived. And now my family was really involved with the church at the time. My mother worked for the priest. My sister became a nun. My father did the plumbing. I mean, they knew us really, really well, you know. But it was a long time ago. And so Andy said, "Why don't we go into the convent and knock on the door and see if there's anyone we know?" And now I know I'm in the Twilight Zone, right? I stopped. I said, "Oh, wait a minute, Andy. What is going on? What do you mean go knock on the door? I can't imagine you want to see these nuns. Plus, it's 45 years later. They're probably all dead, and they live in Nova Scotia. You know, so like, what?" And he goes, and he just looked at me, and he just said, "I just want to do it, you know." And I knew something going on, but I didn't know what. I said, "Okay." So we get out of his truck. We go to walk to the front door, and we look to the left in the garden, and there's a back of a nun there. And he said, "Let's go see who that is." So we walk over, and who turns around but Sister Vidya with the bottleneck glasses, who lives in Nova Scotia, and she's down here for a week. And she's blind. And she turns around, and she says, "Who's there?" And I went to say who I was, but I thought, I'll just say my family. I mean, who knows after 45 years if she could remember us or not. I said, "Oh, Sister Vidya," I said, "it's Diane Cirincione." I said, "You know, Phyllis and Tom Cirincione's daughter." She goes, "Diane." "Oh, Diane," she said, first thing out of her mouth. Not how's your mother, your father, your sister. She goes, "Andrew, how is Andrew?" And meanwhile, now I'm looking at my brother, and he's standing here, and he gets this nervous look of like a 6th grader who just got caught, and he looked really kind of scared. And I looked at him, and he looked at me, and I go, "Well, actually, sister, if you just turn to your left, he's here." And she let go of my hands, and she turned around, and she went, "Andrew, Andrew," and she took his hands. And my brother starts, of course, apologizing for giving her a bad time in the 6th grade. I started crying, right? And so she goes, "No, Andrew, no." She said, "You don't understand. God let me live long enough so I could ask you to forgive me." Because we didn't know that children learn differently. We didn't know any of that then. And he said, "Oh, sister, no, please." She said, No, you have to. Please forgive me." And I thought to myself, wow, the universe can be so benevolent at times. And We talked a little longer. That's when we found out she was just there that week. She lives in Nova Scotia. She's retired. She was 93. And then Andy and I, when we went to leave, we were like stunned. He was so calm, though, and I'm like, wow, how did that happen? How did that? He like dragged me all the way over here from the Hamptons to here, to this yard to find her. It was like a homing pigeon. It was amazing. And we found out that she died like 3 weeks later. So, I mean, there is grace in the world. That's one of the stories from Finding Our Way Home. These are really touching stories of Jerry and my life, most of which stories we had. And people kept saying, will you please write these down? And so it's a book that's really dear to our heart. Anyway, that's the story of my brother. And it was really such a gift for me to experience seeing that and to witness to him.